All right, you're tuned to 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide at country.am, and 11:05 every Friday. Yeah,
It is Friday.
I'm still wanting to call this a Monday, but we've been doing this on Fridays for a while now.
A few weeks.
Yeah. So welcome back. You've had an exciting week.
It has been a strange week.
We have tons to talk about on this show.
I think we could do an hour-long show today.
I think we probably could.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start out. One is an opportunity that you got at the very last minute, and you were talking in front of probably the largest crowd you've ever talked in front of.
Yeah, probably about 10,000 people. So it
all
was,
the national cameras.
Right. It was a good experience. This past weekend for 9/11, I had went out of town and done some 9/11 events around, speaking in different places, and my chief deputy handled some here local that was wanting to speak at, and we was just kind of scattered all over the place over last weekend. And while I was out of town, I received a phone call from the state GOP party, and actually a couple other sheriffs called me too. I wanted to know if I wanted to take part in the Donald Trump rally there in Asheville, if I would take part in that on Monday evening, and I agreed to do so. And I kind of got a little bit more than I expected. I was expecting a meet and greet kind of thing, to where I did know I was going to be on stage, but I thought it was going to be something kind of like where we go out and just kind of they talk about law enforcement and we're there in the background and wave and smile and kind of step off the stage. And that's kind of what I was expecting. And when we got out there and got out into Asheville and got into the secured area and went backstage and was back there just waiting, Mr. Trump and Rudy Giuliani came in the room, and we were sitting there, got a chance to meet with them and get our pictures made and all those kind of things, and which that was a surreal experience in itself, right. Just being able to take part in that and meet those folks and get a chance to ask some questions and get some responses and things of that nature. But as they were wrapping things up, they kind of pulled myself and about 5 or 6 other people off to the side and said, y'all stay here, don't leave. And so when everybody else left, we were still in the room with Mr. Trump and Giuliani and their entourage. And I was asked if I would speak and say a few words there at the rally. And so I had about a whole whopping 5 minutes to prepare something to speak. And so we were literally lined up going to the stage when I found out that I was going to be speaking at the rally. And it did make me a little bit nervous. There's about 10,000 people there, and there's national media and cameras everywhere. And my whole time at the stage, I was just praying, Lord, don't let me say something stupid. That's all I was concerned about. But it was a once in a lifetime experience.
That is a tremendous honor, regardless of anyone's politics.
Right.
Knowing that you've been asked to speak at such an event is just an honor for anyone out there.
It is, and I hope that that I represented Cherokee County well, and I hope that. Like you say, regardless of your political stance, that people understand that is just an experience that you can't pass up. It's something that you have to be a part of, whether you agree or disagree with the politics of it. And, I was never a Trump fan from the beginning, and I've shared with people, and I don't care to share here on the radio, that my candidate from the beginning was Ben Carson. That was kind of the one that I was leaning toward. I like Dr. Carson and what he had to say and kind of his philosophies about things. And so I was more of a Carson fan, and then when he kind of dropped out, I just kind of stood in the background and kind of just tried to figure out who I was going to support at that point.
I think there's a lot of people still scratching their heads
still scratching
right now.
their head, yeah. And so I was never really a Trump fan, but I will tell you and tell the people out there that I was pleasantly surprised when I got the opportunity to speak with him, got the opportunity to talk to him and Rudy Giuliani about some of their philosophies and things they want to do, and kind of when it pertained to law enforcement in those areas. And so I felt a lot better about it. By the time I took the stage and went out, I felt really good about Mr. Trump and his candidacy. So, I do support him in this election, and this is not a campaign thing. I'm not here to try to drum up votes or anything for him. It's just kind of letting people know kind of where I stand on this. And but regardless of whether you do or whether you don't support him, it was a great opportunity. It was a great once in a lifetime thing to be able to stand up and represent this Murphy and Andrews and Cherokee County here, just kind of so in the national spotlight there in a positive way.
And that was it the U.S. Cellular Arena
Yes,
there?
it was. It was.
It holds quite a few people there, doesn't it?
It does. They when I talked to the Secret Service out there about the attendance and all that, there was about 10,000 tickets, I think, that was sold, or not sold, but given away to attend the rally. But they said in a matter of an hour there were 18,000 more requests for tickets.
Wow.
And so, that's just a tremendous amount of people that was trying to get there and be a part of that.
All right. Yeah. Well, very good. Well, I was tickled to see. I watched the YouTube video. It's like,
right.
That's our sheriff.
I never go back and watch myself on those. I want to, and I pull it up and I get ready to watch it, but I don't ever. I just don't like watching myself on video.
I didn't realize at the time that you only had 5 minutes prep time,
right.
But I was just telling you, I never worry about you running out of things to say and good things to comment on.
Well, they told me I pulled the guy off to the side that was organizing it, and Robin Hayes, the GOP chair, was there, and I was kind of talking to him about it, and I said, how long are we supposed to talk? What are they expecting? And he said, about 2 minutes. He said, you'll go between 2 and 3, but at 3 minutes we'll cut your microphone off and we'll escort you off the stage. So,
all right.
So I knew to keep it there around 2 minutes. And I think when I asked my wife when I got done, I said, how long was it? And she said about 2 minutes. So I was right on target there. So.
Very good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we need to address this situation that's been catching, I know, statewide attention, but a lot of spottings here, and
right.
and even a couple of people wanting to know on our Facebook page if anything has been official reported about clowns.
Right.
And I responded that, well, listen tomorrow morning, and we're going to talk with the sheriff about it.
As of yesterday, there were no official reports. As of yesterday, we actually put a thing out on our page, on our Cherokee County Sheriff's Office page, indicating that we've had no investigations, no reports,
right,
of that kind of thing. That changed yesterday evening. We had a couple of credible sightings yesterday evening. But I want to make sure that people understand that this whole clown thing is an internet hoax. Mm-hmm. This is something that someone made up on the internet, that it started spreading like wildfire. You can look at these clown sightings. They're in every city, every town, every state across the United States, and it's just an internet hoax that's put out there. But the credible sightings that I was talking about last night, we feel like that's what's happened is we've got some teenagers or someone who has taken this hoax and has access to a mask somewhere and has decided to step out and kind of bring fear into people for whatever reason.
Copycats.
Yes. Yeah. And so I want people to understand this is that we have no reports. And let me say it again. We have no reports of clowns luring people off into the woods, or kids being kidnapped, or people being murdered, or anything like that.
Right.
There is nothing like that going on. And even across the United States, there's no reports of that. That is just something, like I say, an internet hoax that was made up, but we have all these copycats now because of this internet hoax. Do you remember a few years ago there was something that went out, it was called the Slim Man or something like that, the Dark Man or the Slim Man or something that was...
Kind of rings a bell.
It was an internet hoax, and these kids had made up, and before you knew it, there were sightings all over the United States of this tall, slender, dark man kind of thing. It's kind of similar to that. It's just something that's taken a life of its own and gotten out there. But I do want to say this for anybody that's listening. If you do have access to a clown mask and you're considering on standing on the side of the road and scaring people, understand this, that number one, it is a crime to be masked and standing on a public roadway or in a public place or on a right-of-way or thoroughfare, alley, street, and that statute is North Carolina General Statute 14-12.7 is what that statute is. And so to be masked in public is against the law. The only exceptions for that is for events and things that's organized, such as Halloween, when you've got kids dressed up for Halloween or adults dressed up for Halloween and Halloween garments during Halloween festivals and Halloween times, there's exceptions for that. But just to be masked in public is a crime. It is illegal to do that. And I have instructed my deputies that if you catch people out doing this, wearing masks in public, dressed up as a clown, you are to arrest them on the spot. And so we are to make sure, that if we've got teenagers, if we've got young people running around doing this, if you know of anything like that going on, please encourage these people not to do that. And you say, well, that's kind of harsh. Why are you instructing your deputies to do that? Because we are expending extraordinary amounts of manpower and time of running these different types of calls around, and a lot of man hours, a lot of cars, a lot of people are involved in this, trying to run these sightings down. And the other thing is also these kids are actually putting themselves in danger if they do this, because there's a lot of talk out there in the community of shooting people. There's a lot of talk of beating people up. There's a lot of talk of beating people with baseball bats and all these kind of things. So if you're standing on the side of the road and you're doing these things, you're actually putting yourself in danger, and maybe endangering other people if we've got roadway issues and traffic stops. So we've only had that one credible sighting, and we're hoping that that's the end of it, and we don't have to face that no more. There was one yesterday evening, but it was a hoax. We determined that it was a hoax sighting, and so we do have people calling in just making stuff up, just telling us that they're seeing things when they're really not there. They're really not seeing them. So
I read somewhere that there was someone was arrested for making a false report. I think that was in the eastern part of the state.
Right. Yeah, and if you call in on 911 and you file a false report, not only can you be charged for filing a false report, but you can also be charged with misuse of the 911 system. So there's a lot of different things there you can be charged with. So it's not funny. It's not a joke. It's very dangerous, and it's causing a lot of manpower, a lot of money issues involved with this. So if you're out there listening, or you know anything like this is going on, just don't do it. Just stay away from it.
All right, so the lesson learned here is no clowning around.
There you go.
All right.
I'll tell you a funny little story with that. And I'm a corny kind of person. I've kind of got a dry sense of humor. One of my nieces called last night, and she was very upset because of these reports and these things going on. I heard something over the scanner about it, and she was all upset and said her dog was barking outside and these kind of things. And so I told her I would come over to her house, but I said, well, your dog won't bite a clown anyway. And she said, it won't. And I said, no, it won't bite a clown because they taste funny. So a little humor there today. Yeah.
Today's corny humor has been brought to you by...
There you go. Yeah. Corny humor by the Sheriff's Office.
All right. A couple of press releases were issued yesterday. And, of course, anytime we post things, we get a lot of the comments on Facebook get automatically filtered out.
Right.
And some people were very upset, and we even received phone calls here wanting to complain about press releases. But the press releases are issued because the arrests actually did happen.
Yeah.
And one was about an absconding sex offender who was arrested again. Tell us about that situation.
Well, that was a case that Roger Williams was working, and he is our guy that kind of watches over these things and makes sure that they're not violating the law. The press release actually went out about a gentleman by the name of Justin Barber, who was convicted in 2008 in the Cherokee County courts, and they kind of went along with the charges there that he was charged with. He had previously been convicted of a failure to register violation, and he was scheduled to appear in court on a probation violation charge, and he failed to appear on that, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. When we went to pick him up for that, it revealed that he had moved from his registered residence, and his residence at that time was unknown, and he failed to inform the sheriff's office of where he was, and so that was the result of the additional charge on that. So we just one of the things that happens, a lot of people do get upset about these type things, but we have to treat everybody fairly, and we can't do press releases on just pick and choose and say some things we're going to and some things we're not. And so basically what we do is we just do a press release out whenever we make these type of arrests on certain felonies and certain types of charges. And then as they go out to the press, there's some press picks it up and some passes along, some don't. And that's just up to them as to what they do about it. But we put the information out there to everybody to make sure that everybody gets those press releases, and it's up to them what to do with it as far as the press.
One person was asking, let's see, he entered the front door when you found him and then went through the back and then shed his clothes.
Right.
What was his purpose in doing that?
We still don't know. He tried to run. He jumped out of a window, and he got stuck outside the window, but he was clothed when the officer saw him, and he was not clothed when they arrested him, so we don't know why he took his clothes off. I don't know if he was changing clothes, and in the midst of changing, he decided he'd try to run and just forgot that he didn't have clothes on or whatever, but for whatever reason, he decided not to wear clothes when he attempted to run, so...
And basically, if you're a registered sex offender, to stay out of the news, just take the time to report your address.
Right.
That's
it.
simple.
And it goes back to kind of what we talked about before. And like I say, there are some changes in laws. There's some things happening with that. But if you're going to, if you're going to be living in a parking lot or under a bridge or whatever, all you got to do is tell us. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm going to be. That's where I'm going to stay for a while, And it's not a judgmental thing as you can or you can't be there on most cases, right, unless it's violating the school or, a daycare or something like that. But in most cases, we don't care where you are as far as trying to tell you can be there and you can't be there. It's the fact of it's the law, and you're supposed to report that of where you're going to be living and where you're going to be staying.
How long does it take to report your change of address?
If you're going to stay anywhere more than 14 days, you're to report that. But to come down and report the change of address takes less than 5 minutes, just to drop in and say, this is where I'm going to be.
Why do you think some do not report their changes?
I think there's a lot of people that feels like that they shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. They feel like that either what they did, they don't see it as a crime, or they don't think they should have been charged with it, or don't think they should have been convicted of it. And they don't like the fact that they have to tell somebody where they're at and what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of them out there, it's just a rebellion thing of just, right, I just don't feel like I have to do it. And so that's why they don't do it. But there's other people that comply to the T with the law and reports everything and, and follows the law as far as the reporting process to the best of their ability.
All right. Another press release we shared yesterday was about 5 people that were investigated in a joint operation between, right, you and other agencies. Now,
right,
tell us a little bit about that situation.
We were working a case in conjunction with the U.S. Forest Service on Indian artifact removal. And I don't want to reveal the location of it because obviously we don't want other people there doing it, but there's a place here in Cherokee County that was along the Trail of Tears route. And there was a report of people on Forest Service property that was digging up Indian artifacts and selling them there on the property. The U.S. Forest Service launched in an investigation, a federal investigation in on that, and actually done some interviews, talked to some people, and found where the dig site was and some people that actually had been to the site and had participated in that. Upon locating the site and trying to figure out what was going on there, they discovered that there was a massive removal of dirt and property from the site to the point of bringing equipment in to move dirt, which is illegal on federal property.
So it wasn't just digging up an arrowhead and then leaving?
No, it was a huge operation. And I don't want to reveal too much about it because it is a federal case, right, and there will be a federal U.S. Attorney press release coming out on this later. But basically what happened is through the removal of these artifacts and interviews with people, people started talking about where they took some of the artifacts from, some of the people they sold them to, things of that nature. So we went into this joint operation with the U.S. Forest Service to search some of these places and these houses and people that were involved in this removal of Indian artifacts. When we started into this, it spawned over into some drug arrests and some different things there. If you look at the press release, there were people that was found with warrants, active warrants on them. So we arrested those people that were at some of these residences. When we went there, we found other drugs and paraphernalia at some of these residences. One residence was down on the lower end of the county in the Violet community of Cherokee County at Lakes Brindle's house. Mm-hmm. And so Lakes Brindle is a name that has been coming up for many years. And so we saw an opportunity to go down and to execute a search warrant there at his house. While we were there, we did find drugs and paraphernalia at the house, enough to charge them with some additional felony charges for drug possession. along with some other people there. And also it spawned into a search of a house in the Marble area, where there also, not only did we find a large quantity of Indian artifacts, but we also found a large quantity of drugs and paraphernalia there at that house. And so that resulted in the arrest of several people here in this joint operation. And also there were some wildlife violations that we found while we were at these houses. Different things spawning from, turkey and black bear and deer and other animals that was located at these houses. And so the North Carolina Wildlife Commission was called in, their wildlife officers, to also assist with these searches and things going on with these houses. So it was just an operation that spun into a lot of different areas there. But it shows the cooperation that we have with working with federal and state and local agencies, to try to get some of this stuff done.
How long has this investigation been going on?
It's been going on for quite a while. I do know that according to some interviews and things that the Forest Service has done is, as far as the dig sites, that part of it has been going on for many years. The investigation itself that we worked with the Forest Service has been going on for several months to a year now. And so we've got a lot of different things going on like this with federal and state agencies that we work very hard every day on, but we can't talk about or can't reveal until it's time to execute search warrants and do these arrests and things. So you'll see more stuff like this coming in the future.
Even when these press releases are issued, we have a lot of snarky comments on Facebook saying, "Great, they arrested someone for digging up arrowheads and busting somebody for pot. Now I feel so safe." Those kind of things. There's a lot in here, the press releases that. There's a lot more to it.
Let me ask these people this question in case they're listening. I want to ask them this question. How would you feel if somebody went to the local cemetery and started digging up your relatives and stealing rings off their fingers and started opening their caskets and taking things? This is the same thing that's going on with these Indian burial sites. These are many generations of burial sites in villages and places where these people lived and died. And so they're literally going in and digging up graveyards and digging up places where these people are buried and artifacts. And so these same people that make these snide comments wouldn't like it if I went to the local cemetery and dug up their relatives and stole the items that's on their fingers and around their neck. So
absolutely. And of course, every press release is not meant to make people feel safe.
Right.
You're enforcing the law.
Right. That's it. And going back to the marijuana thing, we talk about this every time we do a marijuana press release, and I kind of said it tongue in cheek, but it's true. I said, okay, let's go ahead and do this press release, and then we'll get ready for the firestorm of everybody talking about how we should leave the stoners alone and the marijuana, But the fact of the matter is that it's still illegal in North Carolina. It's a crime. And there's going to be some more marijuana arrests, and we're going to arrest some more people in the next few days and days to come. And so, just as long as we're enforcing the law, people can say whatever they want to say.
Right. What else has been going on around the sheriff's office this past week?
Well, it's like I say, it's just been very busy. A lot of stuff going on. We're constantly working on the breaking and enterings and the different things that's happening in the area. We seems like that every time we kind of get ahead on this and make a dent in it and kind of get some of the stuff squashed down, there's other people step in and start breaking into things that's kind of off the radar. As a matter of fact, this morning we were over on tribal property helping with the tribal police on some breaking and enterings that happened over there in progress, where somebody had caught someone coming out of a house with a gun. And so we're constantly assisting them, not just our breaking and enterings, but also on tribal property, Forest Service, like we're seeing here, and those type of things. So it's just been busy. And the traffic, I don't have to talk about the traffic. I think anybody that lives in Murphy can tell you about the traffic and the way the pickup and all that's been.
We also shared a press release from the town of Murphy Police Department about a robbery at the Murphy Walmart. I think maybe Sunday morning, was it?
I think it was Sunday morning. Basically, it was a person who came from the casino and was on their way back to their residence in Atlanta, and for whatever reason, they decided to stop and slip a cashier at Walmart a note that stated they had a firearm and to ring up a candy bar and give them the money out of the drawer. And so that's what the cashier did. They rang up the money, or rang up the candy bar, gave them the money out of the drawer. Never saw a weapon, never brandished a weapon. But through the course of the investigation and working with tribal police and with the casino, we were able to identify the person, or Murphy PD was able to identify the person. We worked with him, his system with that, and were able to identify who they were and where they were from, and issued warrants for their arrest, and actually talked to them by telephone, where they confessed by telephone of doing it, and then subsequently drove back to Cherokee County and turned themselves in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he's already bonded himself out,
I think
correctly?
so.
I think his picture disappeared from the detention
Right.
center website.
And I think that was because of the fact of that he did have early admission of what he did, and he actually physically drove himself back to Cherokee County to turn himself in here to get the warrant served on him. So I think that's one of the reasons for the unsecured or the low bond or unsecured bond.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I see our time is getting
There you go.
getting close. Anything else you want to address before we close out the program?
No, it's like I say, it's just been very busy, and we have changed our system over to a mobile dispatch system. I think we may have talked about that last week a little bit, but we're getting the bugs and all that kind of stuff worked out, and it's working out great. We're getting to a place in the next little bit where we're going to be able to communicate with Murphy and Andrews police departments and their in-car systems, and so that we'll get that information sharing around the county. And so when we get all that worked out, we're in the process of moving dispatch over to the sheriff's office and a brand new dispatch center. So when we get all that worked out, hopefully we'll get some pictures and get a good press release done on that.
I can't stress enough how communicating with other agencies is important. I was reading a story about, it was so heartbreaking too, on the Blue Ridge Parkway, where some park rangers actually sit there and they pulled up to investigate, and this before the Amber Alert was
Right.
actually able to issue, and the father killed his, I think, 5-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
and his whole idea is no one's going to take her away from me again, type
Right.
thing, and just murder her right there in front of the.
Right.
And I think they were working on better communications
Yeah.
in situations like that.
Well, one of the problems that we're facing here with our mobile dispatch, and it's just the nature of the beast. There's not really anything you can do about it at this time. But with the mountainous areas, and the same thing with the Parkway and those places, is when you got the high mountains and the low valleys, there's going to be places that cell service don't work. There's going to be places that you can't get signal out. And so in those situations, a lot of times that alert may go out or that message may go out. But if an officer's in a place where he's in a dead zone where there's no service or no cell signal, he may not get that on his mobile dispatch until he gets back in the signal range. So unfortunately, things like that do happen, and we wish we could prevent that. But other than going to satellite, that's about the only thing we can do, and I don't think we can afford a satellite in Cherokee County.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, making the very best of the situation with what you have.
Right.
And it's not going to be a perfect system, but technology is improving every day.
Exactly right.
Cell service has grown quite a bit since you and I, and well, we didn't have
We
cell
didn't have
service
it.
when we were in high school, did we?
I can remember when they first started cell phones in the 80s, my dad said, I don't know why they're doing that. That'll never work here. People around here won't have anything like that. But I guess he was wrong, wasn't he?
It's amazing how many people no longer have house phones. No one wants to be tied to a cord.
It's funny you
anymore.
say that because I canceled my house phone last week.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Let's see. I don't think I've had a house phone in probably 15 to 20 years
Right.
now. I moved my house phone over to my cell phone, so I
Right.
kept the same number, so no one else knows that it's a cell. No one
Right.
who calls me knows it's a cell phone that are calling. But it's. And if you look at the phone book now, how thin the phone book is, and
Right.
they don't list mobile phone numbers in phone books, so you can see how many people have canceled
Right.
their home phones.
Yeah.
But technology just really changed how we things.
does.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll do this again next week right here on the radio.
Friday.
On Friday,
There you
that's
go.
right. You are tuned to 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide at country.am.